to the Deep Dive. This is a journey we're building just for you, really cutting through the noise to get to what matters.
That's right.
Today, we're diving into one source, just one. But it's a really thought-provoking one that seems to be making waves.
Yeah, I think this one will spark some thinking.
Our focus for this deep dive is a YouTube video. It's titled, No New Normal, Rethinking Globalism's Future.
That title alone says a lot, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
A strong statement. Hints at, fundamental shift in how we understand our interconnected world.
Definitely.
So our mission today, let's dig into the video's core arguments. It's, specific insights. We want to help you decode this evolving landscape of globalism.
And really figure out what it means.
Exactly. What does it truly mean if, like the title says, there is no new normal to settle into? Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, what's fascinating here right from the start is how the video refuses to offer, easy answers or a comfortable future. It's not just another commentary on what's happening now. It actively challenges that sort of deep human desire we have for stability.
That need for things to settle down.
Precisely. The presenter argues that the very expectation of a new normal, whether it's after a crisis or just a period of change, that expectation itself is fundamentally flawed, at least in today's global context.
So it's calling for a whole reframe.
Yeah, a call to reframe our entire approach to global affairs, basically.
That is a powerful reframing right off the bat. It's not just saying things are changing, which we all know. It's positing something, more radical.
Uh-huh.
So what exactly does the video mean by no new normal? What's the core concept there? How does it argue against that idea of a stable, predictable future for global interactions?
Okay, so the video introduces this concept it calls dynamic disequilibrium.
Dynamic disequilibrium, okay.
Yeah, and the argument is we shouldn't see the current state as just like a temporary disruption that's waiting for a new stable balance to emerge.
Right, like we just need to get through this phase.
Exactly. Instead, it says that constant, unpredictable change is the new operating system. That's the reality for globalism now.
So the change is the normal.
Essentially, yes. It's not chaos just for chaos's sake, but a perpetual state of flux. Systems are constantly adjusting, but they never really settle.
Any examples?
Yeah, I guess a good one. The global supply chain. Once it was all about maximum efficiency, right?
Just in time, low cost.
Right. But now, the video says, it's in a permanent state of reoptimization, but for resilience this time. And there's no single stable endpoint in sight for that.
So always adjusting, never fixed.
Exactly. And the video argues that the very act of looking for a new normal actually stops us from adapting to this inherent continuous motion.
Dynamic disequilibrium. It's a brilliant phrase, actually. Makes it sound less like a crisis and more like a condition we just have to understand.
That's a good way to put it.
But this isn't just about today, is it? It feels like it involves looking back to reevaluating history.
Oh, absolutely.
Does the video give historical context? Like, how did we get here? How does it contrast past assumptions about globalism with now?
It really does. It draws a very clear line. It talks about what it calls Globalization 1.0.
Okay, what's that?
That's basically the post-Cold War era. It describes that time as being driven by this almost utopian belief.
In what?
In linear progress.
Right.
Towards deeper integration, shared prosperity for everyone, that whole end of history idea where market democracy wins out.
Right, I remember that feeling.
Yeah, and the presenter vividly contrasts that with what we face today. They call this the fragmentation era.
Fragmentation era, okay.
And here, that underlying assumption of inevitable integration, it's been shattered.
By what specifically?
Well, by forces like the 2008 financial crisis, obviously, then the pandemic's impact on supply chains, which is huge.
Huge, yeah.
And ongoing geopolitical tensions. All these things expose how fragile that earlier optimistic model actually was.
So it wasn't just about current events breaking things.
No, the video is saying it's reinterpreting the meaning of the last, say, 30 years.
Wow. So Globalization 1.0 assumed this smooth upward path, and the fragmentation era is where it sounds like the train jumped the tracks.
That's a fair analogy, yeah.
Which brings us to now. If the old globalism was meant to be this well-oiled machine, the video seems to paint a picture of it seizing up under all this pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the biggest wrenches in the works, the specific challenges or disruptions to that traditional globalism that the presenter really highlights? Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, it points to let's say a potent cocktail of forces.
Mm-hmm.
Economically, it highlights a really stark shift. It talks about something called the resilience premium.
Resilience premium. What's that?
It cites a study, I think it said companies, especially in critical areas like semiconductors,
Right.
they're now willing to pay, on average, maybe 15% to 20% more to reshore and nearshore production.
Wow, that much more.
Yeah. They're prioritizing supply chain security over just pure cost efficiency. That's a complete reversal of the old just in time thinking that, fueled globalization 1.0.
Total flip.
Totally. Then, geopolitically, it details a rise in what it calls regionalization paradoxes.
Okay.
For example, it uses the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, as a case study.
Uh-huh.
It shows how internal African trade has actually grown almost 3 times faster than trade with partners outside Africa in just the last 5 years.
So regions turning inward in a way.
Sort of. It suggests regional blocs are increasingly taking precedence over that broad global integration ideal.
Interesting. And technology.
Oh, yeah. Big focus on AI.
Yeah.
Not just as a tool for efficiency, but as a real disruptive force. It posits that, get this, up to 40% of existing job roles could be significantly redefined, maybe even automated, within the next decade.
40%. That's huge.
It is, and that naturally accelerates social and economic instability.
That resilience premium idea is powerful. Paying more, not for better quality necessarily, but for less risk.
Exactly. It changes the calculation.
And the regionalization paradox.
Mhm.
That makes a lot of sense when you see countries trying to, insulate themselves a bit more.
Right. Building stronger local ties.
So, if globalism isn't settling down with all these shifts, what are the practical consequences for nations, economies, even for us as individuals? How does the video say people are responding if we connect this to the bigger picture?
Yeah, the implications are pretty profound and immediate. For nations, the video suggests we're seeing this widespread adoption of digital sovereignty strategies.
Digital sovereignty. Meaning?
For instance, it references how several European nations are now mandating data localization for critical infrastructure.
So data has to stay within their borders.
Essentially, yeah. Not just for privacy, but they see it as a strategic asset now, moving away from globally shared data systems.
Okay, that's a big shift. What about economies?
Economies are seeing this proliferation of multi-shoring, companies diversifying production across multiple countries, maybe even competitors sometimes, just to reduce those single points of failure.
Spreading the risk.
Exactly. The video even mentions, I think, an automotive manufacturer running identical production lines on 3 different continents now. Costly, yes, but seen as a necessary hedge.
Wow. And for individuals? For us?
For individuals, this translates into a much higher demand for what the video calls adaptive intelligence.
Adaptive intelligence.
Yeah, basically the ability to quickly learn new skills, pivot between industries, navigate ambiguity. It's becoming more valuable, maybe, than deep static expertise in one thing.
Because things change so fast.
Right. And people are responding too by building more localized networks, emphasizing community resilience. There's this understanding that global systems might be less reliable for everyday needs now.
That makes perfect sense. If the rules keep changing, static skills just won't cut it anymore. It sounds like the video really pushes back hard on some core ideas of past globalism.
It definitely does.
Does it offer specific critiques of those older assumptions? Or maybe propose alternative ways, frameworks for understanding how the world interacts now? Does it give us a vision for the future, or is it mostly analyzing the present?
It offers a very pointed critique, especially of that efficiency at all costs mantra that really dominated globalization 1.0.
Right, the drive for cheapness above all.
Exactly. It argues that singular focus inadvertently created extreme fragility. We optimize for one thing, cost, and unknowingly sacrifice resilience.
Makes sense.
But instead of offering a prescriptive new framework, like here's Globalization 2.0, the video advocates for a new approach. It calls it adaptive governance.
Adaptive governance. So not a new institution, but a way of thinking.
Precisely. A mindset for existing institutions. Emphasizing networked, flexible responses over rigid, top-down solutions. It's less about drawing a new map for the world and more about teaching us how to navigate uncharted territory using dynamic tools. So yeah, it's very much an analysis of the present, but one that implies a different way forward.
That distinction is key, isn't it? A fixed framework versus adaptive governance as a mindset. It's about how we approach problems, not just dictating the solutions.
Exactly.
But, given all this raises an important question. While it sounds compelling, does this new normal perspective maybe overlook certain things? Are there nuances, maybe counter arguments that the video sort of raises implicitly or perhaps doesn't fully explore?
Oh, it absolutely does. And I think that's actually part of its strength, It makes you think.
Like what?
Well, implicitly, it pushes us to ask, if perpetual flux is the norm, how do we stop that leading to like strategic fatalism, where long-term planning just feels pointless?
Yeah, that's a risk.
And it doesn't really delve much into potential upsides of flux either. Things like rapid innovation cycles or maybe opportunities for smaller nations to leapfrog traditional development paths because of disruptive tech.
Good point. Opportunities in the chaos.
Right. And it also makes you wonder how global collective action on huge issues like climate change or pandemics, how can that be sustained when national interests and regional blocs seem to be getting stronger?
How do we cooperate?
The video doesn't hand you all the answers, but it forces us, really forces us, to reevaluate our definitions of stability, progress, even cooperation itself in a world that's inherently dynamic.
Those are incredibly important questions, pushing us beyond just the immediate challenges. And speaking of challenges, were there any facts or stats, maybe unexpected insights in the video that really made you stop and think? Anything that challenged your assumptions about globalism?
What truly caught me off guard, it wasn't a statistic about GDP or trade volume, actually.
Oh, what was it then?
It was the video's focus on the changing nature of global connection itself.
Yeah.
How even as the trade in physical goods faces headwinds, from that resilience premium, cross-border intangible flows, things like data, services, intellectual property, digital content, those have actually surged. I think it said by over 25% in the last 3 years alone.
Wow. So while physical stuff slows, digital booms.
Exactly. And that completely upends the simplistic deglobalization story you sometimes hear.
Yeah, it's not that simple.
No, it suggests globalism isn't necessarily retreating, it's just transforming into something less tangible, maybe, but just as powerful, shifting from, ships full of containers to fiber optic cables packed with data. That redefinition of what globalization even is today, that was a real aha moment for me.
It really reframes the conversation, doesn't it?
Right.
It's not just a yes, no, more or less situation.
Not at all.
Okay, let's bring this back to the listener. Why is understanding this whole no new normal perspective, this dynamic disequilibrium, why is it relevant to your personal life, your professional world?
Yeah.
What are the real world applications here?
Well, look, if dynamic disequilibrium really is the reality, then waiting around for perfect clarity before you make a career move or a business investment,
Yeah.
that's probably a losing strategy now.
You can't wait for stability that might never come.
Right. For someone leading a business, this might mean building what you could call a minimum viable resilience strategy, MVR, maybe.
Huh, I like that. MVR.
Yeah. Not just a minimum viable product, constantly stress testing your supply chains, exploring maybe more decentralized ways to make decisions.
And for an individual.
For an individual, it means actively cultivating those transversal skills we talked about.
It's like critical thinking.
Yeah, critical thinking, complex problem solving, cross-cultural communication, skills that are adaptable rather than super specialized, static expertise that might become obsolete.
Makes sense. Be flexible.
Exactly. The video essentially equips you to anticipate that disruptions aren't just these one-off events anymore. They're part of an ongoing, interwoven pattern. And knowing that helps you move from just reacting to change to proactively designing for it in your daily life, in your strategic planning.
That's incredibly practical advice. Really helpful for navigating a world that, often feels incredibly turbulent. So what does this all mean? If we were to boil it down, synthesize the main takeaways from this deep dive into no new normal, rethinking globalism's future, what are the, say, 2 or 3 most important messages you should remember?
Okay, I think first, you need to forget the idea that some stable new normal is just around the corner.
Right. Let go of that expectation.
Yeah. The video argues really strongly that dynamic disequilibrium, that constant, unpredictable change that is the default setting now for global affairs.
Okay, takeaway 1. Change is the constant.
Second, understand the big shifts reflected in these concepts we discussed, like the resilience premium in trade and the regionalization paradox in alliances. These aren't just temporary blips on the radar. The video suggests they're fundamental re-architectures of our global economy.
Got it. Structural shifts, not temporary problems.
And third, I'd say personal and organizational success in this kind of era really hinges on cultivating that adaptive intelligence and, for institutions, adaptive governance.
Mm,
Prioritizing agility and resilience over trying to make rigid, long term predictions that might not hold up.
be adaptable, be resilient. Those seem key.
Absolutely. This deep dive into no new normal, rethinking globalism's future, it really underscores that expecting some fixed equilibrium in global affairs, that's likely a relic of the past.
Mm,
The video challenges us to build systems, yes, but also mindsets that don't just survive amidst all this ongoing transformation,
Right.
but actually find ways to thrive within it.
a really important shift in perspective.
And the enduring nature of change in global systems, which the video illustrates so well, it isn't some flaw we need to engineer out or fix. It's more
Yeah.
like a fundamental characteristic, something we just have to acknowledge and, well, master navigating. Accepting that absence of a fixed new normal might be paradoxically the most consistent and vital insight for dealing with the future.
Powerful stuff indeed. And that leaves us with this final provocative thought for you, the listener, to ponder. If constant flux is the true normal for globalism, how does that fundamentally change our strategies for adaptation, for innovation, and maybe most importantly, for cooperation in the decades to come?
A big question to chew on.
It is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep questioning. We'll see you next time.